So here's a quick video comparing my sketchbook drawings with the final published zine for Vacation to the Lot. So I just wanted to show you. This is the first drawing that I did in my sketchbook, which pretty much in its entirety made it over to the zine. So I didn't edit that much of the drawing. I kind of cleaned some bits up, like this edge, these edges over here, but most of it is the same. I did adjust all of the colors to be more pinkish and more vibrant in Photoshop and Procreate, but in general this is stayed kind of the same. Same goes for the next page. So I've just taken this comic is exactly the same. This one again, I've made it a bit more pink and I cut out the, what's that called? The umbrella, I guess. I cut it out because I didn't like the way that looked and it wasn't really clear what it was. So I used it to put some copy there. Then this one has stayed the same, but I moved it over 2 pages. So this top, I did clean up also the drawings and the colors. Mostly the colors actually everywhere. For example, here I made the shadows more like darker. There's more of a difference. I did change the layout. So this little drawing of my son's one asleep, one standing, I put into different corner because I wanted to actually put some of the drawings that I did later on the left page. One of them is this drawing of the dog that they had at the house, and this one is of my son meeting one of the girls. I pulled forward the drawing of them being in the garden. I moved because this actually happened later. Then over here is the drawing with the girl that I showed. Not much change. I took out the copy and I replaced it all with my own font, which was made by Dan Barry, who used my handwriting to create my own font for it. And then I sort of combined like little bits and pieces, like the souvenir, the salt, which I really enjoyed drawing. Like, it's so much fun. This is from our trip to Toulouse, which I spread out over 2 pages instead of the 1 because I wanted to add a bit more like details on the town and what we did there. And also I found this drawing just kind of, or this page kind of messy, and I changed the title to do it like this so that it matches the rest of the book. This one is pretty much the same story. I moved some of the copy around to make it a bit more clean, and this one's from a few pages before. Then Castle, also moved these 2 apart, so all of the drawings, I found this page a bit cramped and I wanted to add more history of the castle, so once again I made all the colors a bit more pinkish, stuck to the same color scheme everywhere, cleaned it up a little bit, and worked on the layout so I could add some history to it. Same goes here. Actually, this is, to be honest, this is the favorite, like one of my favorite drawings in the whole book. I did it on location, so that was nice. And I added, so the guy's still there, it's a bit smaller, but I added some more drawings that I did afterwards to explain a bit of the history of the town. So there are all these settler towns in France, which I didn't know about, so I was sort of like describing the way they were set up, the history, and also the history of the pigeon towers that we saw everywhere, which is really fun, so I added that, but the main elements were still there. Then I moved, you probably saw it, I moved the food to the page that was all about food, because that made a bit more sense. And even though the owner of the place that we rented came by a few times with vegetables and herbs from their own garden, and this happened like a few times, but I decided I would just put it in one spread and tell the story of the family and like their garden. Then this pretty much stayed the same, I guess. Just gave them a bit more breathing room and a bit more room to tell the story of what we did. This is a drawing I did while we were there, but not a journal page. Here are the outfits, which as you can see I edited some of them, but they're mostly the same. And then I moved the food, which I also really enjoyed drawing. Like maybe I should just draw food all day, to the next page to describe a little bit more about what I cooked. Then this is the Chateau de Bridoire. I moved that. Basically, most things are in the same place. I changed proportions a little bit because I thought also this was quite full, and then I used like the left page to add some of the copy that was over here. But the drawings are pretty much the same. Then this one, unchanged. I don't think he even edited the drawings at all, just gave them a bit more space. And then this one is a drawing that I did fully digitally afterwards, so that one's not in the sketchbook. And then here is a cleaned up version of the drawing. Like I didn't really like this one, so I did scan it in and copy it over, but I basically redid the car, for example. Why are cars so hard to draw? And I left out the very depressing bit where I was very stressed about returning home and our lives. I did describe it, but I didn't want to end the book with me crying and my son telling me everything was going to be okay, because it's kind of depressing. Anyway, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the tools that I used to make the scene. So as you can tell, I've done it all analog in my sketchbook. The first layer I'll do is just with pencil. I still use these very cheap Bic mechanical pencils. I have about 500 of them. And then I color them with Winsor Newton watercolors. So this is a box I got, and then I fill them with half pans, and I fill those up with the tubes. I can show that later or not. Anyway, I just refill them. And as you can tell, I have a lot of blues and a lot of greens, which is not a surprise, I guess. Oh, and the brush I use is this one. Whoop, where are we? Here are we? You can't tell, but it's the Master Stroke Craft and Decorative Pro Arte Series 60. I think I got this one when I was doing a hand lettering course, and I actually really liked it. And then for the bigger washes, I also use this one, which I guess, yeah, it's also Pro Arte. I didn't know that. Anyway, so apparently that's my brand. Then what I do is I'll go over all the colors with my Caran d'Ache pencils, the Luminance. I got these during the first quarantine, first wave, and I'm super, super happy. And you can tell that I'm using them a lot. Depends a little bit on the color. Some of them I've already needed to replace. But what I'll do is I'll really sort of like layer on the colors so they're very intense, very deep. And then I like blending too with the white, which is why my first white is already pretty much gone. I think it gives a nice effect, and then if you go over it again, it actually becomes even more intense. So I got the box of 40. They're not cheap, but super, 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 super worth the investment, I would say. I've been loving them. And then what I did is when I scanned all of these in, I imported them into my, hello children, I imported them into my iPad. So this is Procreate. It's an iPad Pro, and there I, well, you can't tell, but I actually just worked directly onto the original scan. So no fancy layering, I just sort of like blend and make darker. Sometimes in other cases, if you, let me see if I can find one. Did I do any fancy layering? Not really. I think I just mostly did it directly onto the page. Yeah, I cleaned them up and edited the colors a little bit. And then once I had all of them sort of laid out or cleaned up, so these layouts are exactly the same as in my sketchbook, then I used InDesign to do the page layout. So this layout is of course very different, or not very different, I just added like a bunch of drawings. So those drawings actually were separately done in Procreate. So I have a bunch of different brushes that I use, like watercolor pack, to sort of make a blend in. And then I do most of the inking with, I think it's just a standard 6B pencil that's in there. So I added some little drawings here and there. I also did the illustrations of the pigeons in Procreate, and I actually did two drawings that I fully did digitally, among which the cover, because I did do a different cover art at some point and really didn't like it. Let's see if I can find it. I feel like I did this much later. Like, this has been such a long process to get it all done. Yeah, so this is the one that I did. And I actually did import it into the gallery here and even cleaned it up. I think, not that much. Anyway, I got halfway, I think, and just really disliked it. So then I made a new drawing, which is a bit more layered because I used different reference images, etc. And I added like these little fun ones. This one's actually based on a drawing that on part of that cover drawing. So if you can tell, that's the same. And then I just added the pigeons, and this is what it looks like then in the final image. So yeah, that's how I work, and it took a long time, but mostly because I work 4 days a week and I have the kids home, so I do this in my evenings and my weekends and my spare time, like literally on the kitchen table. But yes, very proud of this little booklet and the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I made it. Thank you so much for watching.